No worries.
All right. So, as I said before, my name is Antonio Cooper, and I am here with Emily and Dan of the Crane Wives. How you guys doing?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Doing
Awesome.
great.
So, I wanted to start from the beginning, just getting a bit of you guys' as origin because you're from Grand Rapids, and I just want to know how did it all like come about? Because you started off as a solo artist, along with your songwriting mate, and how did that turn into what we have here today, where you guys are just crushing it on stage and just selling out left and right?
Thank you. Well, we all met at school. We all went to Grand Valley State University. Um, I think we were all majoring in something very different, right? Like Dan was film and video, right?
Yeah, I was doing with sound emphasis, so I was close, but I was mostly doing like Foley stuff.
And then our bass player, Ben, was a business major, thank goodness, because that has been very useful to us. And I was a PR major. Kate, I think, majored in Spanish and writing. So we all kind of were scattered in our interests, but we were participating in different music events on campus. And um, after graduating, I graduated in '09, like at the peak of the recession. So there was no jobs. And I started working as a housekeeper and as a waitress, like a lot of service industry jobs.
Mhm.
And Kate actually ended up getting a job at the same Chinese restaurant where I was working. And instead of waiting tables on Friday nights, because it was so dead and so miserable, we asked if we could play music. Like we brought our own little PA and played a bunch of cover songs, and people hated it. Uh, but we had so much fun doing it that we just decided, like to kick the waitressing shop and just keep making music, which weirdly enough worked out.
That's so cool. So, does your guys' like major translate well when you're like, oh, Dan, we need we need this video footage. Can you help us out here? We know that your area.
Well, I was in the film program, but my mentor Joe McCarter was trying to create like an audio production major, and I was trying to do recording studio type stuff. And I actually met Ben Zito, our bass player manager, uh, audio engineer as well. I met him in like a sound club on campus, and then I actually got hired at a recording studio called Soundpost Studios in Cascade, which is right outside of Grand Rapids,
Mhm.
and I was an intern there for a while, then I was hired there for a while. And Stuart, who's an amazing person, he liked me a lot and but he also had to lay me off. And so when he laid me off, he was like, I like you and we can, keep some kind of relationship going. So we kind of uh, posed to him, like, maybe we could use the studio on Sunday nights and come in. And it was like Sundays from like, the afternoon through late at night, we would work on our debut album. And we brought Ben in originally to be like more of the audio engineer and mixer. And he's really brilliant with audio. So originally he was there, and then he just was kind of pretty obviously like, you guys know I'm a bass player, and he's a really, really, really
Snuck
sick
that
bass
in there.
player. So yeah, it all came together that way with our first album being like a little fire we crowded around.
But I think it's really nice. I think we have a good array of focus interests. Like it's been exciting to finally use my PR degree for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Um, it's been, I know that without Zito's business acumen, we would be in a completely different place than we are now. A big part of, I think, our success is just the fact that we've been able to be so DIY and do everything in house. So this is like really the first year that we've been able to assemble a support team, which is also really exciting. But I do credit a lot of our earlier success to just having the four of us pulling a lot of weight and kind of maintaining a balance, so that the whole thing can exist in an ecosystem.
Now, with that being said, how do you go from that to gelling so well on stage and making everything just seem so effortless?
I'm
How
glad
does,
it seems effortless.
how does it go from that to just this? Was there like a point, or how did it just naturally flow?
I think we always had really wonderful musician chemistry. Like we all have pretty varied tastes as well in music, but we have always been able to really kind of hit this similar groove of like trusting the other person to say what they need to say with a song, but also feeling comfortable enough with each other to kind of create suggestions or options for overall composition and trying to make the message a little bit stronger and clearer.
Mhm.
And then as far as performing, I mean, we've been doing this for 14 years, which feels like a lot of time and no time at the same time. But I mean, we've got hundreds of shows under our belts by this point.
Mhm.
And after a certain point, like we talk about it on the road a lot about how it takes a few performances before you kind of sink into the flow state of like, this is muscle memory. I know how to do this. And it becomes fun and not something you have to think so hard about.
Yeah.
But I think it's just practice.
Yeah, and it's also worth saying that like being together for 14 years, these new fans that found us, they just like devoured our back catalog. And I was just talking with a friend yesterday that about an old friend of mine was saying like I used to hear those songs at bars or at like in your parents' backyard, and we all knew the song or whatever, but it was just that song that you always played. And now in these venues that we're playing, Emilee or Kate will start the guitar part for a song that we wrote in 2014, and the crowd will lose their minds knowing what song it is from the first couple notes. And that is very, very different than what we used to do, which is just like hope that one or two of the 20 people were listening.
So, all right. Speaking of just the song writing process and just the songs coming from your guys' back catalog, what I found interesting, I was doing research and just listening to you guys. With most bands or most artists in groups, you can tell it's a group process when it comes to the songwriting lyrics. But what I appreciate is that your lyrics are so poetic that it feels like somebody wrote a poem and then the music came after, the melody came after, or the drums came after. How do you go about that? What's like the songwriting process? Because they feel so deep and in depth that I'm like, this can't possibly be a group effort. This has to come from one person or the other person. They go, okay, we're just gonna go with it from here.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think Kate and I are the primary songwriters in the band. And usually what we would do, I mean, up until this past year is just kind of write a full skeleton, like verse, chorus, maybe a bridge. Um, and just kind of have the bones and then come to the band and be like, can you help me make this a fleshed out thought? And sometimes that would require like having someone else sing a verse or, rewriting a verse or maybe, having a completely different bridge. Um, it's exciting the longer that we've been together, the more risks we've been able to take with, our suggestions and our composition. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I really do think the lyrics in particular are very personal, usually from Emilee or Kate. And then it's our job, like I know I speak for Ben too, that I'm just such a huge fan. So we just like receive these. We've always had this phrase that like a song that you bring to the band is like a gift to the band. And the lyrics in particular come from like really deep in Emilee or Kate's personal experience. And so for us, it's like I really think about serving the song. And if what I'm doing doesn't just like amplify the emotion that's already there, then I should do something else. But um it's really cooperative, and I think that the trust is there. That's really special, and it's really fun to then say like, well, how can we build harmonies on this? How can we build it into a groove, and then watch it become kind of something that you didn't expect, or. But the core of the emotion is really like intimate and personal.
Absolutely. And also, I was thinking about this. with such deep and like personal lyrics. Your last, you guys' last two projects, Fox Lord and Coyote Stories, that was 2015 and 2016. You guys have only grown since then. So tell me, how does the experience get even more deep or in depth than like, okay, we wrote this back when we were kind of still children, and that was 8 years ago. How does like
Yeah.
the new age or the new writing process differ in 2014 now?
That's a great question. For me personally, I just feel like I'm thinking more about what I want to say. I feel like the platform has gotten so much bigger now that I want to make sure that my messages are clear and appropriate, all of those things.
Yeah.
So I think now writing for the Crane Wives, it becomes kind of a bigger beast, right? Like you're trying to say more than just like this hurt me. You want to kind of take your listeners somewhere with that. I think that we're very fortunate to have young listeners who are listening to our music, who are like the same age as we were when we made it, you know, like it's like it's hitting at that right time, when all of your emotions are peak and you know you just feel everything so deeply. But I think the older you get, the longer you have to like figure out how to manage those things and live with and around them. And I feel like this new record is a lot more of that perspective of like the grown-up Crane Wives having gone through the hardships and having navigated a lot of the trauma, and not erasing that or saying that it doesn't still hurt, but also saying that like there's this whole extra thing that can also exist, which is like this hope for things getting better. Which I think is it's a hard thing to feel when you are really in the deep feelings of your depression and your anxiety, which is a place that we have lived for a very, very, very long time. And I think part of the healing process is accepting that there can be that and also more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll just chime in and say, like, as I've tried to explain, I've got maybe like 10% of the lyrical content, like I've contributed some stuff, but the one that I kind of like wrote is also a collaborative writing piece. So anyway, but my bandmates were, I really appreciate their trust in me trying out like track listings and taking the songs that already exist, which is all this lyrical content from Emilee and Kate, and doing these like puzzles with them, just like does something for my brain. And one day this album, like trying like, okay, what if this came after this and this came after this? Suddenly there was like this, whoa, what if it starts in conflict and starts in like this really internal conflict, and then it goes like this over the course of the record, whether you're in like conflict or trying to do something about it. And eventually what we all really like about this record is that it builds up to this place of like, I've got to take a leap, I've got to try to do something brave with all of this stuff inside of me. I've got to try to make change in a brave way. And then there's this little bit of like a falling action and feeling like, wow, maybe there is a different way, maybe there's a different path. But then the last part of the record is this idea of like, well, I don't know what's on the other side of this, but here we go. And then we just like never give the listener a happy ending, So I'm really interested to see how that feels to people. And what I hope it feels like is like helping them work up their bravery to make positive change in their own life, but not being like, not giving them platitudes or making them feel like, we
Yeah.
know it's all going to be
Yeah.
all right, because we don't know. We're just going to try our best.
It's very on brand for Crane Wise to start in a place of conflict. What's new is the potential for resolve, I think.
So yeah, the way that you're describing the track listing, it's almost like the idea of life itself, where it goes up and down, up and down, up and down, or just the idea of like depression and anything like that, where it's just a constant state of flow almost.
Totally.
Yeah. So I have to ask, because is there a title for the album? Does it follow the same like animalistic like themes?
We went on a departure here. This record is called Beyond, Beyond, Beyond. and it is taken from a lyric from Arcturus Beaming, which was, I think, the first single that we released. And we like that just because like Arcturus is such a big like turning point in the record. It's like a focal point. It's the first song in, I would say, like the whole record where you kind of get that glimpse of the other side, like of the veil, that there is potentially more to the story that you tell yourself than just being hurt and feeling pain.
Absolutely. And I'm curious about the single Bitter Medicine. How did that come about?
I wrote the song mid-pandemic, actually. It was like after our first real viral moment. We had
Yeah.
had like a YouTube viral moment. And it was just one of those moments where you kind of see things changing beyond your control.
Mhm.
Like people like to ask how this happened, how we made the jump from being a local band to being a national band. And it's like, I look, and the internet did a thing and I had no part in it. And that's kind of how it is, I think, for a lot of artists seeking success. Like it's just kind of like a lightning strike, and sometimes you're lucky and sometimes you're not. But Bitter Medicine kind of came about with thinking about the lightning strike and how it doesn't always hit people who are like deserving of the strike. You know, it can be somebody who's worked their whole life, and it can be somebody who just started. It can be somebody who does bad things and sometimes writes good music. You know, like it really doesn't. Talent has very little to do with it. And so I had this big coming to Jesus moment of like, is this the thing that I earned, or is this the thing that was given to me?
Mhm.
And I don't think that there's a real answer to that, but all that you can do is just like acknowledge the holes that you have and then do your best to like not cause more harm. And that's kind of where that song ends. It's just like, we are not perfect people, and we do not claim to be perfect people. We definitely didn't prior to success, and we won't moving forward. But because of that, I think it allows us to be honest with our audience,
Mm.
and that is really exciting.
Absolutely. Did you have something?
Yeah, just it's just fun to be in the rhythm section for a song like Bitter Medicine, because then your job is to turn imposter syndrome into a bop. And and it's really fun. I mean, like that's one of my favorite things about being in this band is like the cathartic lyrical content mixed with like the energized tempos and the energized like feel of the songs. And I always make the joke that like I literally get to hit stuff for a living, like I literally make a living hitting stuff. So it's really fun, and I think that that energy comes through in the audience when people get to like sing Bitter Medicine. They get to feel their own imposter syndrome, and like as opposed to something slow and meditative where they're like, man, I feel weird about myself. They can just be like, ah, and kind of scream it out.
That's so cool. And with these live shows, first off, how does it feel to look and just see that they're selling out left and right and left and right? How does that feel?
Surreal. Like I was saying yesterday that it's like Monopoly money. Like seeing the numbers go up, you're like, I don't know, this means nothing. It's
Yeah.
amazing, but it also just doesn't feel real.
Mhm.
And I think every time we get to a show where the energy is amazing, it's just one of those, you sit back moments. And remember playing to a Chinese restaurant with 5 people in it and they all hate you. And it's, yeah, every time it kind of takes, I don't know, it just hits me right in the stomach. It's amazing.
Absolutely. I could only imagine. And
If you've ever been booed by somebody who doesn't speak English, let me tell you, it is a humbling experience.
I hope to never experience that. Oh my goodness. So, with that being said, you guys are coming up here to play Ann Arbor, the Sonic Lunch. Have you guys played Ann Arbor like often? Or yeah, how you feel about this?
We've had a few different. I'm trying to think of Ann Arbor experiences as a band. We've definitely played in the area.
We've done the Blind Pig
Yeah,
A
a
classic.
few times.
we've all been
The
involved with
Arc.
stuff at the Arc. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say that recently Madison Cunningham came to Sonic Lunch, and Kate opened for Madison Cunningham solo. And I'm such a huge Madison Cunningham fan, like I had to go to the show. And it was so great to like hang out with the staff, and like it just made me I've obviously seen Sonic Lunch as a thing, but just to like experience it all day, from like people setting up to it happening, and then watching Madison Cunningham, which was mind blowing. And then afterwards, we had like a great hang with just like some musician friends that we have in Ann Arbor, that we all kind of saw each other and were like, whoa, and had this great hang. And it just felt like real community, and it felt like just hanging out with the people who are making it happen all day long. It was just like, these people rock. They're just making this really cool thing happen for people who can for free come up and set up their chair, or like come on their lunch break and just like catch an incredibly dope concert. It's like, it's such a cool thing.
I feel like Ann Arbor is one of those like really cool underrated music spots. Not just in the sense that y'all have like a really great local music scene, but also just I think people like music a lot there.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
audiences are really good in Ann Arbor. Like people come to listen and they come for like the overall performance experience. Whereas like West Michigan, and this is not bad mouthing West Michigan, obviously, like we're from here and we love it here, but like our music scene was born kind of in tandem with the brewery scene. So like the expectation of a show is just a lot different. But Ann Arbor is just one of those special places, and it's always like such a joy to get to go back to perform for an Ann Arbor audience.
Are you guys looking forward to anything when you come up here, or are you looking forward to going to any restaurants or anything like that?
Kang's Korean Restaurant. Kang's Korean Restaurant. I can't wait.
Yeah, there's no question about where we're going.
Is that normally how it is? Like she's like, after we perform, we're doing here, or is it just one member just overrides all, where the
we
guitars
we've
go?
had a lot of favorite spots, but
Yeah.
on the road we have a tour manager who helps us make decisions so that we're not squabbling amongst ourselves forever, never eating.
Yeah.
But like with specific spots like Ann Arbor,
Mhm.
Ann Arbor is a spot that we've hit a few times, and Kang's has become a staple. So you
All
got to get
right.
that bulgogi dish.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I with the new record, what should people expect?
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Well,
That's a bit open ended. That's very open ended.
I'll try. I think that with the lyrical content of like trying to face the unknown and take a big leap into something that's adventurous and feels like change, we definitely sort of on purpose, but also sort of accidentally created that sonically. We tried to be really adventurous with the sounds. I've been really excited. I've said before, I've been really excited for people to hear Emilee and Kate's electric guitar playing featured on this record. A lot of our old albums are more focused in that acoustic world, and the way that their electric guitar parts interlace and then also like play off each other, but also the way that they've crafted their guitar tones, like with guitar pedals and stuff. It's just like it's a whole different sonic world, but there's so much in it that I think feels familiar, especially from a songwriting standpoint and a lyrical standpoint. So I think that it's a really wonderful balance of like new adventure and comfortable like familiarity. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary.
Nice. And I just got three more questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with the new record, like I said earlier, your last record came out 8 years ago. Does releasing the new record, has it changed, or has things changed in the way you promote it and the way that you go about saying, hey, we're going to release it here? How has that shifted?
Oh, it's been night and day, honestly. this is, like I said, it's like our first year assembling a team.
Mm.
So part of that team has also been public relations and publicity support, which was never something that we could afford in the past. And like I said, because I did PR, everything was pretty in-house. So to have a team sending out press releases for me has been insane. Um, but it's also been amazing. We've gotten some amazing interview opportunities, like, you know, like this opportunity here. We've been able to talk more about what the record means to us and the journey of making it. And so it's just been a lot more exciting to have like the professional assets ready to go. I feel like we've been a DIY band for the majority of our lives, and now it's like, okay, let's see what we can do with the team support. And so we filmed our first real music video. I know there was a craft services table and everything, wardrobe department. Like it was amazing to be able to, you know, kind of do these things that we dreamed about as artists, but had never thought would be a feasible thing for us. And so it's been just really exciting to kind of indulge in those things and use them to talk more about this record that we're so proud of.
Awesome. And what does this record mean to you? That's something I
Oh,
Wow. A lot.
oh, yeah. I think not only did this record come after a pretty tough hiatus where we like the world shut down and we weren't sure if we would ever perform together again. I think that this record comes out of a lot of uncertainty and a lot of personal struggle. And it's been really exciting to just like feel connection with people, even with the singles that we've put out, and seeing that a lot of people are on kind of a similar journey post pandemic of trying to acknowledge that this thing was hard and it hurt, but also like trying to move forward in a meaningful way and find the silver lining and the good things that are still out there. So like it means so much to be able to share this, especially 8 years after our last record, thinking that we might not make another. So this is a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's really special too. And I think one of the cool things is that we had this whole collection of music over those 8 years and like through the hiatus that we had, there's like 10 or 12 songs, and they did make it on a live record. And they also became like live singles that we would record in each other's houses and then put on Spotify. So we were like getting close to making another record. But then when it came time to make this one for real, it was really interesting to kind of be like, well, do we take all those old songs that have been accumulated over all this time? And I'm really excited that the direction we went was like, you know what? No, let's just do something so fresh with exactly who we are now. And we had a writing retreat and we put together, you know, both Emilee and Kate brought all these songs to the table, and in like 4 days, while also doing a lot of hot tubbing and hiking, we like put together 7 songs out of nowhere, and it just felt so fresh and exciting. We had a second retreat where we did another 2 songs, and so 9 out of the 11 songs on the record are like brand new, and the other 2 we just wanted to like serve and give a good home, and they felt like they fit. So it's really exciting to have that feeling of like, this is exactly who we are now. We're not even going to go back and like, you know, create this version of who we were. It's like, it's really exciting to just show up with that fresh energy and be like excited that the fans have no idea what they're in for a majority of the new album. They just have no idea what's going to happen to their brains. So let's go.
All right. And for the people of Ann Arbor, what should they expect from you guys when you come perform at Sonic Punch?
Well, we will be coming off of a 2 week run of shows, so chances are we're going to be a little fried, but that always lends to a lot of fun unpredictability. So I bet the energy is going to be good. We're going to be tight from 2 weeks of playing together. And I like to believe that we are going to put on a kick-ass show. So
You know, old stuff, new stuff, brand new stuff, all sorts of music, and yeah, we're gonna be in an interesting spot after all of our adventures. We're excited to share
Having,
that.
yeah, and also having never played Sonic Lunch, like I'm excited to see what the energy will feel like in that space. A lot of times we get carried away with telling stories, so that's probably going to be a thing that happens.
Completely understandable.
It'll be nice to give the music some fresh air. Like we love all of these incredible venues we get to play, but it's also nice to just be outside and feel the breeze. And
So many rooms without windows, which is
yeah,
also fine, but like, boy, man, they really love putting musicians in a big cement block.
All right. And do you have anything that you want to add? Anything you want to put out there to the world?
Um,
um,
Go ahead.
I don't know when this is going to come out, but we have a new single coming tomorrow, August 7th, and it's the last single from the album. It's actually the first song on the album.
Mm.
People can find our other two singles and this one streaming everywhere, and then the album comes out September 6th. And
We
yeah,
have a
excited to
big
play Sonic
hometown
Lunch.
show. Yeah,
Yeah,
we have a big hometown show on September 6th for the album release, and we'd love it if people wanted to come see us again because this is going to be, my parents are going to be there. Really excited
really.
about that. Yeah, this is like their first Crane Wives show since basically prior to the pandemic. So I'm excited to see their response to the new era. They're always our harshest critics. So it's
That is really cool about the Ann Arbor show is it's the last show before we release the new record, so it's like right on the edge. The
Ooh.
anticipation will be high.
Yeah.
yes.
All right. Well, those are all the questions I have. Thank you guys very much for choosing to meet with me, for choosing to do this here interview.
Thank you for having us. We really appreciate
Yeah, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Crane Wives.
it.
All right.